Hey everybody, what's going on? Juan here, welcome back to the channel, and for this video we have a packed agenda because with all the latest news that have been coming out about Pokemon games on the Switch, before we even get to E3 itself, I figured we needed to have this sit-down conversation, but talking with myself would be a little boring about this, so joining me, one of my great friends, all the way from TheRyanMcNulty on Twitch, we have TheRyanMcNulty. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Good to talk to you again.
Yes, it's great to collaborate. And for context, Ryan and I co-hosted a wrestling podcast for 4 years alongside another great friend, Keith Poshik, who actually has a wrestling podcast now, so figure that one out. And you are primarily, or exclusively, I should say, a Pokemon streamer, right?
That is correct. I stream the 3DS Pokemon games and do a lot of shiny hunting, so it's been a lot of fun.
I have no idea what any of that is, but I've seen you do it.
Yes, yeah, so I'm pretty much a lifelong Pokemon fan and have just decided to dive deeper into that world over the last like 6 or 7 months, and it's been awesome.
So I remember that we were initially going to be doing like a top 5 Pokemon RPG video at one point, but then we got all of this stuff. Like, there is a Pokemon game right now for the Switch in Pokemon Quest, which I know that for many people that are watching, it's like, that's not my Pokemon game. That's not what people want. But it turns out we are going to be getting another Pokemon game later in the year called Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. But even with that, people are still going like, okay, we're almost getting there, but that's not exactly what we want. So it's not up until late 2019 that we're supposed to be getting this traditional Pokemon JRPG, whatever it is. So, Ryan, you recently got a Switch, right?
Yeah, literally yesterday. So,
what piqued your interest?
Long.
What made you get the Switch?
It's been on my list of things to get for a while. I've just been patient because there hasn't been a particular game. Like, I had a chance to play Breath of the Wild. I want to play Odyssey, but I've kind of watched other people play it, so I'm not like, oh, I need to play this right now. But once the Pokemon news came out, I'm like, I'm gonna need to get a Switch eventually. This Quest game coming out did help too, because it's free. So I was just like, you know what? Now's the time. I'm just gonna pick it up. It's a sunk cost. I'm spending that $300 at some point. I might as well just get it now.
Just get it out of the way.
Yeah, because I mean, if I wait till a Pokemon game comes out, there's gonna be a run on Switch consoles. So maybe it'll be a little bit harder to get.
Yeah, let's learn from the NES Classic, the Super Nintendo Classic. It's really good that you got the Switch now because there's going to be like a shortage of that by the time Let's Go comes out. So we're going to be splitting this into 3 topics. First, a little bit about Pokemon Quest, which Ryan hasn't really played much, but I did have a chance to play. I'm like at 1,500 more or less, like the Pokemon team level. Then we're going to get to talking about Pokemon Let's Go, and then ultimately, sort of based on the information about Let's Go, how does that differentiate between what a traditional Pokemon JRPG did? Because even before we hit the record button, I was asking Ryan, so how is that going to be any different? And he was like, okay, Juan, there's going to be quite a few different things. So first up, Pokemon Quest. It's free, and it's available right now. So having said that, people should be excited about that, right? But what was your first reaction when you heard about this Pokemon Switch game that's available right now, and you saw the sort of cutesy, chibi-like graphics? Did that pique your interest in any way?
Immediately seeing it, I was like, okay, this is cool. This reminds me a lot of what Bethesda did with Fallout, where right before Fallout 4, they released that like Vault
Fallout
mobile
Shelter
game. So I think that was very much inspired by that, of like, okay, we got this big announcement. Everybody's waiting for a Pokemon Switch game, but guess what? We're going to tide you over for now. We're going to have you really excited. Like, what I see with this game is Nintendo's plan of keeping people invested in Pokemon pretty much all the way up until the big 2019 Pokemon game. And yes, so far, looking at it, I was like, okay, this looks like a pretty fun mobile game. I didn't know at the time of the announcement that I was going to buy a Switch so quickly. But watching people play it, it's not like I was chomping at the bit to play it, but it's something that, okay, when it comes out on mobile, yeah, I'm going to try it. I happen to now try it on Switch. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, this will be a cool game to play. Although I already have Pokemon Go as the mobile Pokemon game. I'm kind of already playing. Yeah, so this one, It's kind of the indoor, I'm lounging around. This can be the Pokemon game I play when I'm just like watching TV or something. Whereas if I go out, I can play Pokemon Go. So they kind of have their purposes. But it's a fun little game. It's not too overwhelming in any way. It's very simple, easy to follow. At first, like the way the menus are, it was a little tough for me to understand like what was going on when I was watching other people playing until I just kind of dove in and looked at things myself. Because a lot of the icons and stuff, it seems like there's a lot more going on than there really is.
This is one of those, I don't know if you can say like item gathering games. It's the type of game where you watch the numbers go up, right? It's not an adventure game. There's no real story. You progress by cooking, and then the cooking attracts different Pokemon. So it's fire, leaf, whatever type of Pokemon you want to get. And then you have a team of up to 3 Pokemon, and you can raise the levels of those Pokemon. You can also feed them other Pokemon via training, right? So you can get a new moves unlocked.
You actually feed them Pokemon?
Okay, well, they battle them, but I do love how they basically just smash right through them. But then those Pokemon actually leave your party, right? So like that's where they get you, because if you use a Pokemon for training,
you can like basically dust a Pokemon to help level up another Pokemon. Like
exactly. And then there's these different items that you can attach to the Pokemon to raise your health or critical chance. And the actual battle, I mean, you even saw it. You can either choose to kind of fight, or you can just hit the auto button like you and I have been doing, which is just, hey, I prepared you for battle. You should know exactly what you got to do. And then that's what ends up happening. To many people will be like, okay, that's not like a huge incentive. You know, there's not a lot of game, a lot of substance to it. But it's a way to, I want to compare this to sort of Blizzard. You know how Blizzard has WoW, they have Heroes of the Storm, they have Hearthstone. Like they have an entire ecosystem dedicated to what Blizzard is. And I think that Pokemon Go was like the first step. It was like, okay, you know, we're going to get Pokemon on your phone. So like that way, when you're on the street, you're thinking about Pokemon. And now with the Switch, it's like you can think about Pokemon in the streets or back at home, because now you have this. Now you got 2 different options. So it's like you can take a break from Pokemon Go to play Pokemon Quest. Later in the year, you got Pokemon Let's Go, which links together with Pokemon Let's Go. And Go. This is very confusing, people. Okay, basically it's a lot of Pokemon.
And your Pokemon Go are linked together. Yeah,
man, Nintendo and their names. So let's actually get to a couple of details about Pokemon Let's Go. We actually have an article from Polygon that's got a couple of details. So I want you, Ryan, if possible, to read the overall description, because based on the trailer, I kind of had an idea, but this does give me a little bit of hope that this is going to be a somewhat decent game.
And first of all, I want to say there were a lot of rumors and leaks before this announcement, and they were pretty much all spot on. So sometimes you can actually believe 4chan, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what is Pokemon Let's Go? So described by director Masuda, I'm going to not even try and pronounce his first name, but as a remake of Pokemon Yellow, the first Pokemon titles for Switch will take us back to the Kanto region, where the original Pokemon games were set. Players will start off in Pallet Town, meet Professor Oak, and encounter the 151 original Pokemon. In addition, elements of the Pokemon anime will appear, notably Team Rocket and specific characters.
So up until that point, it's like, yes, you have Pokemon Yellow, one of many people's favorite games, 151, which actually had made an E3 wishlist video, and that was pretty much it. I wanted to take it back. I don't care if you release like 40 different Pokemon games for the Switch. Take us all the way back, because then you're going to have the nostalgia factor for the people that played Yellow growing up, but then you're going to reintroduce sort of basic elements about Pokemon. What do you think about everything up until that point?
In my opinion, that's great. I know there's a lot of hardcore Pokemon fans have been exposed to the original Pokemon over and over again. They tend to appear more often than any other Pokemon throughout the entire series. But for me, someone who grew up with Red and Blue and Yellow and played them all as a kid, that always holds a special place in my heart. So when they say, oh, they're going to do a console remake of Pokemon Yellow, like, I'm all for it.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Hardcore Pokemon fans may be tired of that. I don't think this game is for the hardcore Pokemon fans. If you look, what is the first frame that you see in that trailer? You see Pokemon Go. You don't see the actual game that we're talking about. So they're prefacing by saying, okay, look, like this is for the people that kind of like Pokemon, but maybe they want a little bit more than Pokemon Go. And then I guess like the most surprising thing, first of all, this is going to be a full retail price game. So this is going to be $60, no discount, no any of that. The biggest change, no wild encounters, which that to me, like initially I was like, okay, I actually hate the random encounters in JRPGs in general now. I used to love them back in the day. Like I used to be a huge JRPG fan back in Game Boy, Super Nintendo, PS1, all the way up until PS2. But going back to them now, it gets super grindy, which Pokemon was very grindy. But instead, it seems like they're completely replacing it by the Pokemon Go, you throw the ball, you catch the Pokemon. Doesn't that remove a lot of the game at the same time, even though it also helps, I guess, kind of streamline it a bit?
It's basically, this is a more casualized version of Pokemon Yellow. I mean, Pokemon itself is already more of a casual RPG, right? It's a lot easier than some of the other traditional JRPGs out there. Most Pokemon games are not that difficult. There's a few battles that might be difficult, but for the most part, Pokemon games are relatively easy. So this game is essentially a hybrid of your traditional Pokemon game and Pokemon Go. While there's no wild battles, there's definitely wild encounters, and it's really cool that something that I dreamed would happen for a Pokemon game ever since I heard of Pokemon Coliseum coming out on the N64. I thought that would be like a full adventure, but turned out to be more of just a battle sim. Is that you go into an area and you see the Pokemon running around like in real 3D space, like in the overworld, which is what's going to happen in this game. So, but there's no wild battles. So if I see a Clefairy running around in the cave and I run into it, you're going to go into Pokemon Go catch it style, basically like you do now in Pokemon Go when you see Pokemon out in the world. But don't be confused with the fact that they're thinking that there won't be trainer battles, because there will be. You're still going to have, for the most part, the traditional Pokemon battle system. So when you fight a trainer, your Pokemon is going to have up to 4 moves, and type effectiveness and all that,
the traditional
I think,
stuff
still applies. Yeah, all that's still there. It's just when you catch a Pokemon, you don't have to weaken it and do all that stuff. It's going to work more like Pokemon Go. I assume you'll have items that can help you catch it better like you can in Pokemon Go, but you're going to be doing the throw a Pokeball mini game. So that's one element, and honestly, that's not a huge deal. I know that means a lot to some people, but you still have the regular battle system, which I'm okay with.
Sort of linking it back to Pokemon Go is that you can catch a Pokemon in Pokemon Go and transfer them. So you actually do have an incentive of, while you're in the street, you actually see a Pokemon, you catch him, and he should be transferable into the actual Pokemon Let's Go, which, I mean, they are following the traditional Pokemon JRPG formula where you're going to be getting 2 versions, because you're going to have Pikachu and then you're going to have Eevee. And they did confirm that you can't evolve either one of them, which kind of like Pikachu in Pokemon Yellow, which I was always pissed off. Like, come on, I just want you to become Raichu, man. You're always with me. Can you at least change?
I know.
No.
Just like in the anime, it's like, just evolve them, man. Just do it.
I want you to get stronger.
Yeah, I know they're pushing to have Eevee be more of like a mascot for like the secondary mascot,
which
for
is
Pokemon.
Weird thinking back, like as somebody that grew up with Pokemon.
Yeah, because Eevee wasn't really in the limelight until recently now. But that's fine, because that's like your buddy Pokemon. They're going to be special. But don't get that confused with the fact that you can go out, you can catch other Pikachus, you can catch other Eevees. I don't know how many they'll be available, but you'll be able to catch an Eevee out in the wild and you can evolve that. You'll be able to catch another Pikachu in the wild and evolve that. So don't be worried. Like, you'll still be able to complete your Pokedex and be able to have other Eevees and Pikachus that you can evolve. It's just your buddy Pokemon is going to be special. They'll be on like your shoulder or your head, and you can dress them up and all that stuff. So there's probably going to be extra interactions with those particular Pokemon. But the other cool thing is kind of coming back from Pokemon Yellow and like the Heart Gold Soul Silver things, is that this is like a really popular request people have had since those games, is having Pokemon follow you around. You'll notice in the trailer, you'll see like Gengar and like Nidoqueen, like, and even like riding on an Onix and stuff like that. You'll be able to have any Pokemon you want also follow you in addition to your buddy. And I think each one is going to have its own unique interaction. So I'm not sure how that's going to play into what they did in Sun and Moon, where when you instead of like an HM, you flew on a Charizard.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to give any Pokemon in your team an HM. So in these games, I don't know if like you can have any flying Pokemon and just fly around the map now, but it looks like you can choose any Pokemon to follow you, and they'll follow you in a unique way.
Aside from the whole fact that you only throw the Pokeball to catch the Pokemon, everything else seems pretty good. And I guess the next thing is, growing up, my dream was always to be able to just see the Pokemon. I remember the original games, they didn't look like the original Pokemon. They didn't sound like the original Pokemon. Here, you have the graphical fidelity. The Switch should be able to handle that. And looking at the graphics, for me, it does look a lot like basically Pokemon Go upscaled, or even the 3DS games. It seems like they definitely kept the same graphical style. Do you like that on the Switch?
Yeah, I think so, because we've come to know and love these Pokemon in this certain art style. I mean, everyone's seen the fan art of like what a more realistic Pokemon would look like. So it's like what we know about Pokemon is really how the anime portrays them and how the games have portrayed them. And I think just upscaling and really polishing the 3DS models is completely fine. I mean, they could certainly do with some overhaul on like the animations, but as far as the art style, I think they're perfectly fine. And like these Pokemon look great. One thing that disappointed me graphic wise was before I knew that this was sort of like still a side game, that this isn't going to be the core series game, is when I saw that we were still kind of this fixed overhead position, and not like a fully realized 3D world. That
They basically changed. Yeah. They put the 3DS game on the Switch.
Yeah, it's an upscaled 3DS game essentially. And like before I knew that this wasn't going to be the true main series game, that definitely disappointed me. Now knowing that this is not Pokemon Switch 2019, this is perfectly fine. It's a remake of Yellow. It's not changing, not reinventing the wheel, but it definitely has some unique things to it. So yeah, I give it a pass that it's still kind of this fixed pseudo 3D-ness. But that's something I want to see 2019. Like, give us Breath of the Wild exploration 3D style. Like, that's what I want to see.
The other thing that really surprised me is when I saw in the trailer, there's 2-player co-op, which in the traditional Pokemon sense, my first question was, how do you even do that? Because with the Pokemon battles, like, does that second person really do anything? And this is a recurring theme. You look at something like Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Freeze, there's co-op, although admittedly, I think like that is terrible. That is a terrible way to play the game. Yeah. And it's not the only one. But it's like, hey, if you have a significant other, a casual gamer, the option is there. Do you see something like this as a sort of a gateway to get more people introduced to Pokemon? And maybe that's why they did it here, as opposed to maybe the traditional Pokemon game we're going to get in 2019?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Let's Go series, I think this is going to be like a series going forward. Like we'll have the Let's Go series and the traditional series. That's what I'm seeing. And this is very much, like I said, this is like the gateway drug to Pokemon, maybe.
Pretty much.
But with Pokemon Go, maybe that's the true gateway, and this is like the middle stage, right? I really like the multiplayer thing. That was like the big thing that I reacted to when I first saw the trailer. But then after thinking about it, I don't know, like you said, how much you're really gonna be involved, because it's clear it's not like, hey, I have Pokemon Let's Go, you have Pokemon Let's Go, let my trainer come into your game with my whole team. No, I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be like, oh, I can help you out with like, they give me like, maybe you can use some of the Pokemon that's already on your buddy's team who's playing the game. It's going to be a very casual version, I think, very much like a Donkey Kong, like Country Return style, where it's like you're helping out, but
you're the secondary guy.
Yeah, you're just like piggybacking off the other guy, essentially. But still, any type of multiplayer in Pokemon, I think, is really awesome. And I think the Switch, it's really captures what the Switch is all about. It's like, oh, hey, I'm playing a game. Oh, you want to play? Like, here, just grab the controller. You're in the game, like, immediately. It's very much that convenient factor that I think is awesome. And it's a great step at, like, experimenting with a co-op style Pokemon. So there's no way that it's, like, bad because it's trying something new and it's better than just having nothing at all, right?
I guess the last topic I sort of want to bring up is both about Pokemon Quest and Pokemon Let's Go, which Pokemon Quest, that's a free-to-play game, and it does have free-to-play mechanics where, hey, your Pokemon food is not ready, but, if you put in a couple of things, you can maybe accelerate that process, whereas with Pokemon Let's Go, it is a full-price game. That being said, the fact that it's tied to Pokemon Go, we had Pokemon Quest before, I am very afraid of the fact that maybe they're going to be adding these, not pay-to-win elements, but these pay elements that are going to sort of accelerate the experience. Do you think that would hamper the experience for you?
I don't think Let's Go, with it being a full-priced game, is gonna go that hard on microtransactions. I really don't see it. Maybe they'll do some DLC to add story chapters or something like that. But I really don't anticipate them nickel and diming you. Maybe they'll release some extra clothes for Pikachu and Eevee that you can't get in the normal game. I really don't think they're going to go overboard with it. I think that's very much within, they have Pokemon Go and they have Pokemon Quest for that type of microtransaction stuff. Nintendo, I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, call me out if I'm wrong, but I feel like they don't get too crazy with their full retail games with killing you with microtransactions. That's not really their thing, at least in my experiences with their games. So if they are going to release DLC, I think it's going to be similar to a Breath of the Wild type of DLC where maybe they give you an extra chapter with an additional Team Rocket storyline or something like that.
That wouldn't be bad. And think about the fact that this Pokemon game is once again a full retail price. There's 2 of them. Which if you're going to get both, that's $120 plus tax. So a couple dollars. That's about half the Switch.
It used to not be too bad when I pick up Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon for $80. I'm like, okay, that's not the worst, but I'm really unless I feel like I really need to, I'm just going to get one version.
So which one are you going to get?
That's a good question. It's really going to come down to what my friends get. I don't have a huge preference, so if some of my friends have a much bigger preference for one, I'll just get the other. I really don't have a big issue with it. At first, when I thought I could evolve Eevee, the buddy Eevee, I would have been Eevee all the way, because you have more options, right? But now that I know that the buddy Pokemons, you can't evolve them, so either one's really fine.
So Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu, that are going to be out on November 16th, 2018. And with that, I guess we do got to talk about the main event, which is what's going to be happening in 2019. Because with this, talking about the good things, this is somewhat of a JRPG. You can actually walk around. There is a battle component. What do you think, or based on this information, how is the traditional Pokemon JRPG going to be that much different from Pokemon Let's Go?
Some of the bigger things is Pokemon Bank, I think, is huge. So the fact that it looks like the Let's Go games, it's only the original 151 plus a few little extra things. The core series game, Pokemon's mission has always been that they want you to have these Pokemon for life, essentially. There's been a few hiccups with that, it's impossible to get your true original Game Boy Color Pokemon over to GBA and beyond. That's why Fire Red actually originally existed, was so that they could make up for that. That was we're sorry that we screwed up and you can't get your Pokemon, plus now you have the virtual console versions of it. But from GBA on, you can, if you got the means, you can bring your Fire Red Charmander all the way up to Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon right now. It's a pain in the ass to do, but once you get to the Pokemon Bank, it gets a lot easier. So Pokemon Bank compatibility is going to be one major thing that is going to be the difference. There's just a lot of things like Z moves and Mega Evolutions. There's just a lot of mechanics that are in the original core series of the game that are missing from the Let's Go.
Yeah, because there's no breeding, as far as I saw with Let's Go.
They're not. It's I mean, Pokemon Yellow did not have the daycare center didn't happen till Gold, Silver, Crystal.
True.
So, they could easily shoehorn it in if they wanted to, but it seems like Pokemon Let's Go is going to be a more simplified route. So a lot of things, like, we don't know if Pokemon are going to have abilities and what the whole like stat situation is. At the end of the day, this is not going to be their competitive game, right? So, because you got to think about the competitive scene of Pokemon, right? When the Let's Go series comes out, I imagine that the Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon games are still going to stay like the traditional competitive games for all the championships and esports and all of that. So I think that's the two big things are the Pokemon Bank and then competitive scene. That those both have to be catered to, and that's what the main series is going to cater to. And then from there, it's all about really, like, are they going to take things to the next level, or is it essentially going to be Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon in HD in a different region with 100 new Pokemon?
I don't know why. I kind of get the feeling that that's sadly going to be the outcome, which admittedly is not the worst outcome of all. I mean, the fact of the matter is that if we get a full-fledged Pokemon game on the Switch and, if the performance is there, if you got all the Pokemon stuff, that would be pretty cool. Something that you got me thinking about is that it's kind of perfect because by having Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee out basically a year before the next one comes out, by the time that one comes out, I'm assuming they're not going to have the original 151 because that would give you the incentive of, but if you have them in Let's Go, you can transfer them, right? So all of a sudden, if you don't have Let's Go, you're going to want to get it because you're going to want to have that Pokemon, and vice versa. Maybe you can even transfer from the new one over to the old one. What I'm very concerned about, and I want to get your feedback, is, cool with Pokemon Go, with Let's Go, there's a lot of, 2-player co-op, there's online, there's all these social elements. My favorite thing about Pokemon, and this is why I'm excited about the one in 2019, is I want an isolated RPG experience. I don't want to have to worry about, social media or having Pokemon Go or having Pokemon Let's Go. I want to be able to just buy that one game, kind of like I got Red and Blue and even Yellow back in the day, and just be able to experience the whole thing without at any point feeling like I got to wait for something unless I pay for something, that I got to have another version of the game to get the complete package. Now with collecting Pokemon, because that's why you get Red and Blue, right, to transfer them. But if they don't give me that isolated experience where I can just enjoy an RPG Pokemon world and let me immerse myself completely there, I'm going to be very disappointed by that. So my question to you is, what is the one thing, forget about, fancy features, forget about tournaments, what is the one thing you absolutely need from that Pokemon game to say, this is what I've wanted the entire time?
I really think it just comes down to taking things to the next level, right? Like, you look at Pokemon Let's Go and it's creative and it's a little bit different and it's got some elements of Pokemon Go, and it's the perfect way. Like, Pokemon Go was a huge game that nobody anticipated it to like blow up the way it did when it first came out. And the Let's Go game is Nintendo's response to, how do we get those players, those millions of Pokemon Go players, to buy a Switch and start playing on the Switch? And that's what the Let's Go series is. So it's a mix of like traditional Pokemon mixed with Pokemon Go. Like, Game Freak they've very much been making the same game for years and years and making updates and stuff. So I give them credit for Let's Go is definitely doing things a little bit differently. So now when we come to Pokemon Switch 2019, we've been waiting for a true core series console Pokemon game forever. Since the N64 days, we've been hoping for this game, but they've always stuck with handheld. And now that handheld and console are basically one and the same at this point, this is their time to really take it to the next level. Like I said, I want to see a fully 3D explorable world, like Breath of the Wild, but Pokemon. And I'm not saying we have to do shrines and things like that, but I like the element of seeing the Pokemon out in the world and you encounter them that way, right? So let's do that, but in a fully 3D world. I think that is what I want, is the explorable worlds. That is the number one thing I want to see for the game. The battle system, I don't care if it changes at all. catching Pokemon, all that stuff. Like I'm completely fine with that being the core series game. I just want it to be in a more like exploration should be a big thing, very much like Breath of the Wild.
No, but I get you though, because if you think about Pokemon, I think it's very hard to think about it in any other way than the way we've been playing it, because it's the only way we've experienced it our entire life. Where you look at something like Zelda, it's like walk anywhere at any point. That's part of the experience. And I'm assuming by experiencing the world, you kind of also want like accurate sizes of Pokemon. Because one thing that has always annoyed me is that you look at the Pokemon anime and Charizard's huge and then Pikachu's tiny. But you look at the games and everybody's like, one Pokemon can be a little bit larger than the other, but the size doesn't really seem to reflect everything else that we saw with the plushies and stuff. So imagine like, you see a Snorlax and he's freaking huge. You look at a Charizard, you look at an Onix, and it's like, my God, look at that entire thing. Picture going into a gym and it's properly represented, not this micro scopic thing. They do kind of like, there's like a couple of puzzle elements, but ultimately it's bite-sized.
Everything to scale, essentially, is they need to scale. Although they need to redo some of the heights and stuff. Of like, if you go by the Pokedex heights, a lot of things like don't make as much sense as you'd think.
Yeah.
But one thing that they need to do, I think, is, as I said, exploration. How like Pokemon Go proved that sometimes finding a Pokemon can be just as fun as catching it. So what if it was you had to catching rare Pokemon were in very obscure, hard to reach places that you had to navigate through to get to? That's the type of stuff I would like to see. So to get to Mewtwo, maybe there's some like jump. Maybe you got to do a little bit of jumping around and climbing, and there's a maze awesome. And all this stuff. Yeah, like exploring a cave should be a little bit more difficult to navigate, and you really got to know what you're doing to find a very rare Pokemon. So I think they need to add an exploration aspect that doesn't really exist right now in the Pokemon games. It's very linear right now. So definitely something along those lines, I think, is a good place to start with, really taking things to the next level.
So we went from having no Pokemon games on the Switch to having now 3 within the next year and a half. So I'm a little skeptical about how much influence something like Pokemon Let's Go is going to have to the RPG one, because imagine like Pokemon Let's Go is like this insane huge hit, millions of copies sold, but maybe why people like it's because it's super streamlined. Like, is that going to influence?
I don't think so. Like I said, the competitive scene, like they can't rock the boat too much if they want to maintain a strong competitive scene. So if anything, they'll just make another Let's Go game, right? You can do Pokemon Let's Go Chikorita, Let's Go Cyndaquil,
yes.
Like just do Gen 2.
Just complete the Mudkip cycle. Finally make Mudkip the main star. Go back to like, when was that meme?
That was around 2011-ish.
Man, time flies by. So any last comments about this entire Pokemon thing, your expectations? How hyped are you that this is finally happening, Ryan? It's going to take a little bit longer to get the full experience, but it's happening.
Yeah, no, I'm super hyped for the Let's Go games. Like I said, I know they're not going to be core series, but that's perfectly fine. It still looks like it's going to be an absolute blast to play. I'm looking forward to streaming it. I'm going to have to take like a week off of work to just nonstop stream this thing. So I'm really pumped. Like I said, I think they've set out this plan of keeping people engaged in Pokemon. I think it's genius that we got casual Pokemon games. We've got mobile, like even more casual, like mobile games, and then we have the core series games. So there's a little something for everybody, and it's also they're adding these games that are going to tide us over until the main event happens, essentially. So it's a brilliant plan by Nintendo, and I'm excited to play.
For everybody watching, I got 3 questions for you. What do you think about Pokemon Quest, Pokemon Let's Go, and then what do you absolutely need to see happen with the traditional Pokemon game coming out in 2019? And I got 1 question for you, Mr. Ryan McNulty. Where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at TheRyanMcNulty, and you can follow my stream. I do some shiny Pokemon hunting over at twitch.tv/TheRyanMcNulty. So pretty easy to find.
Seriously, man, thank you so much for being here. I know this is not going to be the last time that you're going to be on the channel, whether it's about Pokemon, a bunch of stuff about video games is happening. And now that you finally got a Switch, man, I'm gonna pull you in because I know you like that Donkey Kong Country. I know you like Zelda. I know you like all of that stuff. You and I did a video for VidMe. May that rest in peace. At some point, we got to talk about all that stuff because
definitely
Nintendo, man, Nintendo's doing pretty awesome. You know, some people may not agree with things like Pokemon Quest and stuff, but hey, the fact of the matter is people are talking about Pokemon, people are talking about Nintendo, and ultimately, I'm pretty sure that's what they want as a company, right?
Hey, I finally have a current gen console.
Yes.
Took me long enough, right?
Oh, wow. Right. You didn't have a PS4 or Xbox One. It happened. See, it was thanks to Pokemon. It happened.
Yeah. Red, like Pokemon is the thing that made me buy a Switch. Red Dead 2 is going to make me buy a PS4.
It's happening, people. It's happening. So, folks, if you like this video, you know exactly what to do. Hit me with that thumbs up, subscribe. If you look somewhere near where Ryan is, down below him, there's going to be a notifications ticker. You hit that thing because otherwise YouTube's like, hey,
that bell.
Yeah, you smash that
bell.
Because like YouTube is the worst. Not only do you need to subscribe, you also got to hit the notifications. You got to do the two-step verification for YouTube. And I got a bunch of stuff that's coming down the pipeline, as well as feel free to suggest anything else that you would like me to do on the channel, or anything that you'd like me to do with this man right here, TheRyanMcNulty. So until next time, thank you for watching and supporting. Yeah, keep it PG, please. Please. We want family-friendly content because we got Yoshi in the house right behind Ryan. So until next time, thank you for watching and supporting. And never forget that this video has concluded, but the epic journey continues. So thank you for watching, gang. Take care. Ryan.
Yep.
Yoshi's so lonely up there. But that's got to be really painful because he's like on top of that Wii, just being clutched. Wait a minute, is that a metaphor that he is like between that is the Wii? Is that what you're trying to tell us, Ryan?
Not on purpose. Not on purpose.
Okay, because I've been watching that the entire video. I'm like, is there something going on?
Wait, you can't see Bulma? Can you see Bulma?
Yeah, of course. He's beautiful.
Okay.